How about a big round of applause for Neil Intraub? Come on up, Neil.
Can I move it down a little? Thank you. There's a certain mental toughness you need to live in New York City, and it develops over time like a fine wine, or you die. My first real New York moment came a few months after I moved to Brooklyn from Long Island. I took a long walk in Prospect Park. I came back to the apartment, I showered, ran my fingers through my hair, and felt something adhered to my head. It was a huge blood-engorged tick. Yeah, I freaked out. I ran screaming to my schizophrenic roommate, Orrin, who took a lit match and put it to my head, thinking that the tick would back out. Well, after I smelled burning hair, I thanked Orrin and I booked it to the local ER. Now, it was a Friday night, and the emergency room was filled with these ridiculous characters. The guy sitting next to me, he was loaded with menacing tattoos, one of which depicted a large rat with bright yellow teeth about to bite into a baby. He had 6 bleeding knife wounds on like arms, chest, and neck, and he was belligerent to the triage nurse. He's like, "Hey, bitch, I want to see the doctor now. And I'm cut, can't you see, bitch?" And she had had enough. She looked at me, pointed, and said, "You, what's wrong with you?" I said, "I have a tick in my head." She said, "Come with me." Knife wound guy starts to protest, and she shoots him a look that shuts him down. She was mentally tough. When I moved to Manhattan, I parked my car in the lot adjoining my building, and one day it didn't start. I popped the hood, and there was a rat sitting in the engine. He slowly turned his head and looked at me as if to say, "What the fuck are you looking at?" And I slam the hood down, I step away from the car. A few seconds later, the rat saunters out of the wheel well and disappears into some weeds. And I'm really proud of myself that I didn't scream. You know, I was becoming mentally tough. Yeah, but I had a ways to go. Now, my first big test came a few months later. For some reason, I was really happy, and I was bouncing down the steps of my apartment building, whistling "Obla di, Obla da," when I screeched to a halt in the hallway because through the glass of the front door, I see a wounded rat lying crouched in the corner of my porch, and its right rear leg was bleeding. Now, in this moment of shock, I actually wondered about its backstory. Where did it come from? How did it get here? Who did it fight? This was one tough rat. I sat down on my lobby steps and I was just waiting for it to move. It didn't budge. Neither did I. And to my horror, an elderly neighbor lady who had a penchant for sitting on our porch, she sits down with a steaming cup of coffee. And I don't know what to do, because I think if I knock on the glass of the door, it's going to startle the rat, it's going to attack her. And it's like watching a silent movie. You know, and I'm, to be honest, I was wondering what would her reaction be if she sees the rat come towards her? You know, would she just scream and throw the coffee in the air? Would she be paralyzed like me? Or would she just backhand it off the porch? But more to the point, what would I do if it attacks her? Would I help her? And what seemed like hours, but was probably a minute or two, I was just riveted watching this Willard-like tableau. Well, of course, the rat moved. She turned, screamed, tossed the coffee in the air, but then what was really impressive, she did like a 4-foot lateral leap off the porch. So But a little bit late, I spring into action. I open the door, I grab a snow shovel, I jump on the porch like a ninja warrior, and the rat starts crawling towards me. And I scoop it up, and I'm not panicking. I'm looking for a place to deposit it when, and it looked like it was stunned. But then, like the Terminator, it came back to life. And it started crawling with its bloody leg off the blade of the shovel towards the wooden shaft, towards the handle. And I don't know what to do. So I flung it. And the rat is pinwheeling in the air and lands between a Buick and a Land Rover. Just then, my upstairs neighbor Jeff is bouncing down the street with his bag of groceries. He doesn't break stride. He just looks up at me, nods, and says, "Neil Intraub, rat slayer." I'm like, I love it. I love it. All right, and then I think that here comes, a few months later came my final New York exam. I'm on 10th Avenue near 34th Street. I turn the corner, and I see a literal wave of rats coming across the street. And it was obviously horrible, but there was something in their movements that suggested a collective intelligence. That was really freakish. So I just spin around, go back onto 10th Avenue, and I'm breathing hard, and there's a guy approaching 34th Street, and I figure, I'm gonna help him out. I go, "Hey buddy, you might wanna look out, there's rats." Guy looks at me, he goes, "Go fuck yourself." Then he turns onto 34th Street, and a few seconds later I hear, "Ah!" And I feel good. I am mentally tough. I tried to help. I was rebuffed. Were my feelings hurt? No. I am Neil Intraub, rat slayer.